Hello everyone, this is R.S. Miller at the endtimenews.org, and today is July 13th, 2012. The United States is building up its naval power in the Persian Gulf in response to threats by Iranian officials to close the Strait of Hormuz in case of further sanctions, the Los Angeles Times reported on Wednesday. The report came after earlier this month the U.S. defense officials told the New York Times that American forces have been quietly introduced into the Persian Gulf in an attempt to deter Iran from blocking the strategic waterway, and to increase strike capability in case the nuclear standoff with Iran escalates into military confrontation. According to the report, the deployments were meant to bolster the U.S. military presence in the region while reassuring Israel that the Iranian nuclear issue is being handled. Now, in another article, 2 more U.S. carriers, dozens of mini-subs are rushed to Hormuz. As Russia and NATO continue to boost their military strength in the eastern Mediterranean, military sources report substantial U.S. reinforcements led by the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier are being rushed to the Persian Gulf opposite Iran with dozens of unmanned underwater craft for destroying mines. The USS John C. Stennis arrived in August, raising the number of American aircraft carriers in the waters off Iran to 4, including the USS Enterprise and the USS Abraham Lincoln, with the French Charles de Gaulle soon to make up a 5th. The Eisenhower reached its new position in the first week of July, operates under the joint commands of the U.S. 6th and 5th Fleets. Thursday, July 12th, American military officials announced that the U.S. is also dispatching to the Persian Gulf dozens of tiny unmanned Sea Fox submersibles that can detect and destroy mines if strewn by Iran to block the strategic Strait of Hormuz, the choke point for transporting 1/5 of the world's oil. About 4 feet long, they each carry an underwater television camera, homing sonar, and an explosive charge. There are now additionally 8 American minesweepers in the Persian Gulf, as well as the USS Ponce, a platform for the Special Forces, helicopters, and warships there to fight off Iranian Marine units attempting to plant mines in the vital waterway. Depkafal's military sources say that Washington decided to expand its military deployment in the area after concluding, in consultation with French and British naval experts, that Iran is short of military strength and sophisticated measure for completely sealing off the Strait of Hormuz to all sea traffic, especially oil tankers. All the Iranians can do is plant enough underwater mines to impede traffic and slow it down. The new, bolstered U.S. deployment in Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean is on the ready for immediate action against any Iranian military threat. If Iran starts spreading underwater mines in international waterways, i.e. the Strait of Hormuz, it will find American forces ready to dismantle them on the spot, said a Western military source. In any case, said the source, a slowdown of oil traffic through Hormuz won't have an immediate impact on the world oil market or prices. The world has enough reserve oil in storage to supply its needs for 6 months, said the source. Well, we have the U.S. military buildup in the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean area, as well as the Russians are sending warships. NATO has consigned a Rapid Response Maritime Group to the same area, and also 5 Israeli warships are over there. The Iranians and the Syrians are practicing military exercises in preparation for war. According to Depkafal, military sources report that this is the first simultaneously coordinated Syrian military maneuver for drilling action against an advancing enemy. It is synchronized from a joint headquarters established for the purpose in Damascus. While these coordinated maneuvers are being presented as designed to fend off foreign intervention in Syrian conflict, our sources report that they are in fact preparing for a potential U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear program, which is now expected to take place in October. High-ranking Saudi princes associated with their national military and intelligence agencies frankly confided to Arab and Western officials on recent visits to Riyadh that the U.S. and possibly Israel too are on the verge of war with Iran. It is already decided, they say. The only question still open is the date, which could be before or after the U.S. presidential election on November 6th. In line with this prediction, France is reported in Paris to be massing a large naval force in the United Arab Emirates. The French nuclear aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle R-91 is expected to dock soon at the French naval base in Port Zayed on Abu Dhabi's northeastern coast opposite the strategic Strait of Hormuz. The French are also boosting their air units at El Dhafra Air Base, stationing them alongside a large American Air Force presence.
A desperate regime with chemical weapons is a dangerous regime. Syria has the biggest arsenal of nerve gas in the Middle East, and as Bashar Assad's hold on power slips, there are fears that he could use it or lose it to terrorist groups. Israel sees this as a doomsday threat. It could provoke a war.
Our working assumption should be that we cannot exclude even an unconventional attack on Israel. We will have to preempt in order to prevent it. And we need to be prepared even to launch military attacks in order to prevent it. And military attacks mean maybe deterioration to a war.
Saddam Hussein proved the terrifying potential of nerve gas, killing thousands of Kurds in northern Iraq with a fraction of Syria's stockpile. Bashar Assad controls hundreds of tons of poison gas, enough to wipe out whole cities.
Now, this was a breaking news report on Wednesday, July 11th. Says Israeli soldiers cross into Lebanon's border area. Israeli soldiers have once again crossed into Lebanon in clear violation of the country's sovereignty and a UN security resolution. According to reports, an Israeli foot patrol crossed the UN-drawn blue line and entered Lebanese soil on Wednesday and stayed in the area for hours. The violation of Lebanon's airspace, territorial waters, and border by the Israeli military occurs on an almost daily basis. Now, this is just another sign that war is getting ready to break out in the Middle East. And when you consider the fact that this conflict that's going on over there pits Russia and China against the nations of the West, the NATO alliance, then even though some of the regular news media is stating that it'll be a regional war, this is going to be much more than a regional war. Now, in other news, here's Radchick's radiation fallout alert for the west coast of the U.S.
This is your 3-minute radiation alert, U.S. forecast and sun report for Thursday, July 12, 2012. An overall increase in radiation levels on the west coast of the U.S. is being reported by Radiation Watch on Facebook today. The message reads as follows. All the Radiation Network West Coast North America Inspector Geiger counter graphs are seeing an uptick currently. These are longer-term data sets from the last 12 to 14 hours, not short-time samples. Graphs are available to view on the Facebook group page Radiation Watch. These graphs are most useful viewed over time, weeks or months, to examine for trends. Recently, spotlights on the roof of Reactor 4 were used during demolition work. It had been noted by several observers that this could be a fire event, but at no time have I observed smoke from this area. However, this upward trend of radiation levels is concerning, and if it continues along the west coast, it may need to be considered. Moderate rainfall is occurring from Bakersfield south to San Diego. It is strongly advised to avoid this rainfall until radiation levels can be further assessed. A full radiation fallout forecast for Canada, the U.S., and Europe will post on Friday, July 13th. Also, a long-duration event X flare occurred on the Sun shortly after 1 p.m. today Eastern Standard Time. This flare was a major eruption from sunspot 1520 and also produced a coronal mass ejection. The potential impact area is centered on the subsolar point on the sunlit side of Earth. The extent of high-frequency radio communication disruption is yet to be determined. You may access sun and sky tools on our webpage, fukushimafacts.com. You will also find links there to radiation monitors in real time for Japan, the US, and Europe. Also be advised that Earth-directed solar events can cause spillation of high atomic weight fallout into iodine-131. Please limit all outdoor activity for children as a precaution. This message has been brought to you by Radchick and the Orion Talk Radio Network. We care about you because your government doesn't. Stay safe.
Scientists in Brazil believe they have an alternative tool in the fight against the dengue virus, and they're genetically modified mosquitoes. That's what they're doing. And a pilot program has revealed that it's working. Senator International's Azadeh Ansari is going beyond the headlines. And Azadeh, this sounds like it sounds like a science fiction movie that I'm going to go to the movies to see.
It does.
Like
it sounds like
yeah.
Jurassic Park-ish,
Yeah.
and you have these like genetically modified mosquitoes pitted against these wild like mosquitoes. But Brazil implemented this program in 2011, and they saw over a 6-month period, Don, that there was a 90% decrease in the mosquito population, which in turn means a decrease in dengue fever. But what they're doing, and they just said this today, they started off in the pilot program with 500,000 mosquitoes. Now they're saying, let's try this in a different city with 4 million genetically modified mosquitoes to see what happens.
How are they going to do that?
Well, okay, bear with me. It does sound a little freaky, but they're taking male mosquitoes and they're genetically modifying them to carry a lethal gene against the dengue virus. Then they send these male mosquitoes out into the wild and say, go get those females. They mate with the females, then the offspring actually carry this lethal gene, and then the offspring don't even become adult mosquitoes. They literally just stay in the larva stage, and then they just are destroyed.
The worst case of tuberculosis outbreak in 20 years kept secret as Florida shuts TB hospital. With 13 dead and 99 sick, a recent outbreak of tuberculosis in Jacksonville, Florida was the worst in decades, but nobody knew. Officials from the Centers for Disease Control tried to warn lawmakers of the dire situation as early as February of this year, penning letters and publishing reports, but it was too late. Florida Governor Rick Scott signed a bill in April to, I believe that's shut, the A.G. Holly State Hospital in Latana, where tuberculosis had been treated for more than 60 years, shrinking the state's ability to combat the deadly disease. Now that's pretty much the end of this article. Goes on down here to say the public would not know about the spread of the airborne bacteria until June, when the strain from Jacksonville showed up in numerous parts of the state, like Miami. U.S. drought monitor shows record-breaking expanse of drought across the U.S. More of the United States is in moderate drought, or worse than at any other time in the 12-year history of the U.S. Drought Monitor, according to officials from the National Drought Mitigation Center at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Analysts of the latest drought monitor data revealed that 46.84% of the nation's land area is in various stages of drought, up to 42.8% a week ago. Previous records were 45.87% in drought on August 26, 2003, and 45.64% on September 10, 2002. Looking only at the 48 contiguous states, 55.96% of the country's land area is in moderate drought or worse. Also, the highest percentage on record in that regard, officials said. The previous highs had been 54.79% on August 26, 2003, and 54.63% on September 10, 2002. The recent heat and dryness is catching up with us on a national scale, said Michael J. Hayes, director of the National Drought Mitigation Center at the UNL. Now we have a larger section of the country in these lesser categories of drought than were previously experienced in the history of the drought monitor. The monitor uses a ranking system that begins with D0, abnormal dryness, and moves through D1, moderate drought, D2, severe drought, D3, extreme drought, and D4, exceptional drought. Moderate drought's telltale signs are some damage to crops and pastures, with stream reservoirs or wells getting low. At the other end of the scale, exceptional drought includes widespread crop and pasture losses, as well as shortages of water in reservoirs, streams, and wells, creating water emergencies. So far, just 8.64% of the country is in either extreme or exceptional drought. During 2002 and 2003, there were several very significant droughts taking place that had a much greater area coverage of the more severe and extreme drought categories, Hayes said. Right now, we are seeing pockets of more severe drought, but it is spread over different parts of the country. It's early in the season, though. The potential development is something we will be watching. Friends, the Bible warns us of these things that are coming on the earth as part of God's wrath in the last days. I spend hours researching news events every day, and every day I find more Bible prophecy being fulfilled. Every day there are articles and videos covering everything from society's rapid descent into total anarchy to catastrophic weather events, presumably caused by climate change, to the threat of total annihilation from thermonuclear war. We have scientists experimenting with nature without full realization of the possible consequences of their actions. We have both Fukushima and Chernobyl still spewing out dangerous and possibly extinction-causing radiation. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more to come, and according to the Bible, literally billions of people are going to die from what's coming on the earth, both now and in the very near future. The world has gone mad, and a lot of people are being deceived and will end up paying the ultimate price. It's unfortunate that the mainstream news media hardly covers any of these events. Generally speaking, when they do, they have a tendency to make it appear as though it's not as serious as it truly is. If they were to give these important issues the coverage they deserve, I believe that it would cause more people to turn to the Bible and discover the truth for themselves. But instead, the mainstream media helps propagate the deception on behalf of the Antichrist system by not reporting on the numerous and near daily apocalyptic-style events that are taking place around the world. Knowing the truth as opposed to being deceived is so important that it was the first thing that Jesus warned his disciples about in Matthew 24. Verse 3 reads, "Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, speaking of Jesus, the disciples came to him privately, saying, 'Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?' And in verse 4, "And Jesus answered and said to them, 'Take heed that no one deceives you.'" Folks, don't allow yourselves to be deceived. Open your eyes, look past those little morsels of entertainment and programming issued by the mainstream media to see the truth. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that something strange and unusual is going on. Although there are those who will deny it, that strange and unusual thing is the sign of the end times. Are you saved? Follow the link below, pray the prayer of salvation with a sincere heart, and you will be saved. It is my prayer that God bless each and every one of you with ears to hear, eyes to see, and a heart to receive. In Jesus' name, amen.